Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, it's time for Customer Experience Radio. Brought to you by Heineken Company, real estate advisors specialized in corporate relocation. Now here's your host, Jill Heineck.
Good morning and welcome to this very special edition of Customer Experience Radio. I'm your host, Jill Heineck. I'm a business owner, real estate advisor, and customer experience enthusiast. I thought it would be really cool to air this special episode in honor of Tony Hsieh, the former CEO of Zappos, who passed away before Thanksgiving at the age of 46. His loss is devastating to the world, being one of the world's most beloved CEOs and mentors, a pioneer, and a trailblazer in the customer service space. Joining me this morning is our famed producer, Lee Cantor. He's going to talk with us a little bit about how Tony also impacted him and his business. And I just wanted to kind of highlight how Tony, the lessons that I've learned from Tony and his business and listening and reading all things Tony Hsieh. If you're in business, you're in customer service. And whether it being client or end user facing or internal client or employee facing, you're in customer service. The difference between Zappos led by Tony and the rest of us was his willingness to be authentic to himself, his beliefs on what could be, and to color outside the proverbial company lines. Would you agree with that, Lee?
100%. I'm a super fan of Tony Hsieh, and he demonstrated his beliefs through action at Zappos and throughout all of his work in his lifetime.
That's right. And I think, once he was able to prove and put everything into action, I think then people were like, how do we do that? How do we model after what he's been able to take, what was a losing company into a probably billion-dollar company at this point. I think that while we all can't be a Tony or a Zappos, I know we're all inspired about what he accomplished and how he took customer service and experience to the highest of levels. In his book, Delivering Happiness, which in my opinion should be required reading for every company, Tony listed out the top 10 ways to instill customer service into your company. Now, he kind of used customer service a lot, but I thought, the way I read it, it's really building that customer experience out. Service, I think, is been interchangeable with experience over the last several years. But I think as we get into when people are actually client facing, I think the experience is what we're all trying to focus on. I don't know if it's not tangible enough. But I think this list is a great example of how to build out a service-focused company based on the experience that the customer has. Tony and his team decided they wanted to build a brand around the very best customer service and very best customer experience. So he thought if you got the culture right and you got everybody excited internally, that great experiences would come naturally. So the first number one on his list was make customer service a priority for the whole company, not just the department. So the customer service attitude needs to come from the top. And Tony focused on building repeat customers in word of mouth marketing, which is exactly, what I think many of us strive to do. His belief that happy customers are the conduit to satisfied customers who would return again and again was ahead of its time, and how many companies, much like mine and yours, are modeled today. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that to me, this is all about empathy and to really and truly understand and kind of walk in the shoes of and look through the eyes of your customer. What's in it for them? How can you help them win? What do you have to do tangibly to kind of help them make all their dreams come true? And if you're thinking about that all the time and adding layers and layers of your service to helping them succeed, then you are going to wow the customer, which is something that he is shooting for at every stage throughout the company, not just the sales guy, not just the account rep, but the accountant, the person who answers the phone. Everybody has that in mind, that they're trying to wow the customer. Then good things are going to happen, and you're going to have customers for life, which was his objective.
That's right. And that's ironically brings me to number 2 on the list. Make wow a verb that is a part of your company's everyday vocabulary. So I think this is such an important part of everyday function. It should be. It is at our company, at Heineken Company. And, the question you should be asking yourself as a business owner or as a leader is it ours as well? In fact, are we launching, this year, actually, we are launching for 2021, a newly branded program, Surprise and Delight, in the spirit of wow. And it really is, something that you want to bring to your customer. Every milestone of the customer experience should be a wow opportunity. And I think that's one thing that Tony really kind of enforced and tried to empower his team and understanding that, if you can make that customer feel cared for, then it's just going to continue to create a great experience for them. Have you, Lee, seen or experienced lately any company that's really kind of wowed you, for lack of a better word?
Let me think. Customers
or lately, maybe
that have been on my radar that have kind of gone above and beyond and wowed me.
Right.
I'm trying to think of. I recently stayed at Hilton Head, and the company that was a management company of the Airbnb or the home that we rented there really did a great job of being proactive and thinking of problems or not problems or just opportunities for me to have more fun and my family to have more fun it wouldn't have occurred to me. And they did it in a very elegant way. They added in services and built it into the process and included that as part of this overall kind of price for the experience. So it wasn't something that we considered doing, but we ended up doing because they thought of it ahead of time.
I love that. I love that when it's preempted and, they're kind of anticipating your every need and possible want. And I think that makes such a big difference in your experience. And then the chances of you booking at that property again are probably pretty high.
Right. Well, this is the thing that I think people have to understand. When you have a team like you have a team at Heineken Company, and if everybody on the team, it doesn't matter if they're customer facing or not, if they're thinking about ways to make the customer's experience better, and that could be the billing person. Hey, you know what? At the bottom of an invoice, let's put this thing in here, or something that makes them smile. There was a company that was selling things online, and they would put in like some milk duds in the box. Just like you open up, you're like, oh, look, milk duds. That cost them like nothing, pennies, but it was something that just brought a smile to somebody. That was somebody in the shipping department thought of that. So everybody's can participate on this wow project. It doesn't have to just be the people that are customer facing. I think that's a big takeaway here, that you have to include everybody on your team to get everybody thinking that way. Then you'll really create that culture of wow. It won't be just an initiative that comes and goes. If everybody really believes and buys in and is brainstorming and thinking of ways they as an individual can wow the customer, then you're going to really live into those values.
That's right. That's right. And I think, and that's, going back to number one on the list is making customer service a priority for the whole company, not just a department. And also, the customer service attitude needs to come from the top. So it's not just you get in your training and now, you're let loose into the company and, hope and pray that, it sticks. It's every day. And I think Tony just lived that every day and his team lived that every day. And that made such a difference in their business. And that is something I think a lot of us strive for, which brings me to number 3, to empower and trust your customer service reps or your customer experience reps. Trust that they want to provide great service because they actually do. And this is something that resonates a lot with me. I see, the most people want to do right by others. Most people want to please others and take care of others. And much like co-founder Horst Schulze of the Ritz-Carlton Hotels, Tony empowered his team to use their judgment. He would say, be yourself, use your head. Instead of focusing on guidelines and policies like most corporations, he emphasized culture and values instead. Be authentic, be human-centric, be customer-centric. He believed that if you could get your culture right, one way is by empowering them, the delivery of great customer experience and service and building a long-term brand or business would be a natural byproduct. How many companies have you seen or experienced lately, Lee, that you could feel that from them?
Yeah, well, sadly to me, it's less and less. And to me, it should be more and more, especially in today's world where it's so easy to kind of automate so much of business now, and that they're just taking the human factor out of it. I think one of the great things that Tony did at Zappos was he didn't kind of time the amount of time that a call center person was on the phone. And I think that that kind of changed the game, because everybody hates going through a phone tree. Everybody hates the fact that they're just trying to move you on, and then you go to the next person, and then that person acts like you're a complete stranger. They don't know who you are. And we're just getting frustrated by that. And when he took them off the clock and said, hey, talk to them as long as they need to talk to you, that's to buy shoes. I mean, imagine if they had that attitude in like things that really were mattered, like healthcare or some of these services, and they had that attitude there. I mean, that would change how everybody feels about this stuff. And he was doing it for shoes, and it was game changing. It was a mental shift, and that was important. And I think that's why his book resonates, because it got people to think differently. We don't have to keep track of things that maybe the accounting department wants us to keep track of. Let's focus on the human being here and what really serves them. And let's keep track of metrics that matter from that standpoint.
Exactly. And to your point, Zappos sells shoes, and he had admittedly said that he knew nothing about shoes. In fact, he had been wearing the same Asics and flip-flops forever. And so forgetting about shoes and focusing on what really mattered, the emotional connection, that is what keeps customers coming back. And he'd been known to quip that Zappos is a service company that happens to sell shoes. And, it's funny that, I've always thought of my business in real estate as the same. We are customer experience experts that happen to sell real estate. And we just happen to focus in there. And, our visionary, Gary Keller of Keller Williams International, he says the same thing. He said, first you're a business person who happens to specialize in real estate. So as a business person, how are you going to continue to engage and wow the customer? So I think, these lessons that we're learning from Tony and how he's built his company is really making a big difference in business. He shared a funny story in his book, Delivering Happiness, to illustrate the impact empowerment can have. So he was at a Skechers conference in Santa Monica, and after a long night of bar hopping, he and a group of friends went back to a hotel to order room service, but room service was closed. So Tony dares his Skechers friend to call Zappos and order a pizza. And the Skechers friend told the rep who answered the phone that she was at a conference in Santa Monica and had a hankering for a pepperoni pizza, but room service was closed. So could she help? The request caught the customer service rep off guard, but she quickly recovered and put them on hold. 2 minutes later, she comes back with 5 pizza places that were still open and delivering in the area at that time. I mean, now that was like, Tony just dared her, and he was sitting in the room when this all happened. So it was his own, his own thing at work right in front of him, which I thought was amazing to hear that story told by him. And he said, needless to say, the Skechers friend became a Zappos customer for life. And he also, as a side note, said, he said, now I don't want everyone calling Zappos ordering pizza now. He said, I just wanted to illustrate what this can look like. And I thought it was brilliant.
Right. And it was a risk on his part. He was hoping that his culture really was the way he envisioned it, and they delivered. And I've heard stories the same from Nordstrom, where Nordstrom's return policy, people at one point, Nordstrom bought out another department store that sold tires. And then somebody came in and said, okay, I want to return these tires. And Nordstrom doesn't sell tires now, but they somehow accommodated that person. And it's that kind of attitude of, if the culture really is the culture you want it to be, and your people believe it to be so, then you return tires, even if you don't sell tires anymore. It's just, that's how you behave. And people like us, like Seth Godin says, people like us do things like this. If we believe that we're here to serve the client, then we're going to serve the client. And then it's just, that's our true north. And it's easy to make decisions once you have that as your true north. You just serve the client.
That's right. That's right. And I thought, this is bringing these concepts closer to home in these pandemic times. Zappos set up a customer service anything hotline, and it was he had like a landing page, and he also had a phone number where their team was able to or available to talk to you about anything you felt like, everyday issues or concerns, no purchase required, anything, even ordering a pizza. Now, it is not in service at the moment. I checked yesterday, but for the last 6 months, that has been up, and people were just calling because they were anxious or nervous or upset and not necessarily wanting to buy anything from Zappos. So that is just, I think, again, another example of Tony's mantra at work, which I thought was brilliant. And so given this conversation about empowering teams, number 4 on his list was escalations to supervisors should be rare. So when you're empowering people, you're not the team's not having to constantly call a supervisor or a manager to come take care of a particular challenge. Same thing happened with Horst Schulze. He used to give his team, and I believe that they still do this, each of the front desk or team members had a $2,000 account where they could use that money if it was going to help solve a challenge for a client without having to call to get approval to do so. So I think that's such a huge impact on not having to call a manager every single time an issue happens, but also the customer's super impressed by that. Number 5 is realize that it's okay to fire customers who are insatiable or abuse your employees. I'm sure we've all been in that situation. And unfortunately, I was in one recently where it was a really big decision to make. And, sometimes as small business owners, we have to make hard decisions. And, you're thinking about payroll, you're thinking about, what kind of impact this sale could be. You don't want to let anybody down. You don't want to quit on something you started. Those are all things that went through my head. But at the same time, I also wanted to be able to serve. I wanted to be in a good spot when I'm serving. I didn't want to feel taken advantage of and abused. And those were things that were happening. And I had to make a big decision to cut the cord. And I love that he says, it's okay to do this. And so when I did that, for me, one door closed and literally 5 or 6 more opened shortly thereafter. And it makes such a difference. And so I think when you change up that energy and you give people the power to make that decision, I think that makes a big difference. Have you experienced that, Lee?
100%. And not only with clients, with coworkers and people that are part of the team. At some point, just because that person was with you at a certain point doesn't mean they're going to be with you at all the points. And if they are no longer kind of living a life that's congruent with the culture, as the culture evolves and you're focused on doing certain things, then you got to be okay with letting them pursue other things. If we're all not kind of rowing in the same direction, you're doing a disservice to the rest of the team by allowing this person, this client, to misbehave and to not really be aligned with your values anymore. Because that person, or that, whether it's a client or it's a team member, if they are not kind of aligned with your values, they become a drag on the whole organization, because now you're role modeling that this is acceptable behavior. And if your values say it's not acceptable behavior, then they just can't be part of your journey anymore. I mean, they can find someone else that's doing a similar thing that has values that are congruent with them. But I think you're doing a disservice for the team by allowing a client or a team member to not be aligned with your culture or your values. I mean, that causes way more problems than it solves, no matter how productive that person is or how lucrative that client is.
That's right. And it's, and as a side note, part of, the Zappos training process, was getting them through the first week or 2 of training. It's a 4-week training for their call centers. And as you can imagine, it's harrowing to be on the phone all day or on Twitter, responding to customer challenges, et cetera, questions. And so during this, long training, they would kind of halfway through give them the offer. And the offer was, here's $1,000 or $2,000 to quit now. We'll pay you for your time plus this bonus to leave. And this was their way of trying to weed out the people who were a culture fit or not. If they weren't passionate about delivering a great customer experience and great customer service, then they knew so much earlier on than dealing with this later on. And that's just brilliant. Who does that? But I think that they invested so much of that on the front end so that on the back end that they could really build this great model out, a great team and culture fit. And then again, to your point, now you have people who are congruent with the mission of the company. And I just love that. And to that point, he also, like you said, number 6 was don't measure call times, which I love. You spend as much time as you can or need to with the customer. Also, number 7, don't hide your 800 number. He says it's a message not just to your customers, but to your employees as well. Like, don't call us. We don't want to talk to you. He had his number. The number on the Zappos site is, loud and proud, high up on each and every page. You can always call. Ironically, last night was on a website. I will not mention the name, and I could not find a phone number for the life of me. And I literally threw my phone down on the floor. I'm like, how am I going to cancel my account? I can't call these people. And they made the cancellation so teeny tiny at the bottom that you could miss it very easily. So I love this idea of, here we are, we're here to help you. And that was the message she said. He said, view each call as an investment in building a customer experience brand, not as an expense you are seeking to minimize, which so many call center operators do. Number 8, have the whole company celebrate great service. Tell stories of wow experiences to everyone in the company. This is where testimonials and, fun customer experience stories like the one we just talked about where the Skechers gal ordered a pizza. Those are things that they celebrate inside of the company all the time. It's not necessarily outward, but I think it gets everybody pumped and really kind of connecting with what they're doing. Wouldn't you agree with that, Lee?
Yeah, I think that it's important to kind of document and have this, I think they call it a culture book, that they all, as people contribute to, and that really demonstrate when they have examples that demonstrate the kind of values they have and the mission that they're on, that everybody has access to it. I think it's available to the public, even that they're willing to share this stuff. They don't have a very kind of a closed environment. It's an open environment. They want everybody to win, and they're not, protective about that kind of stuff. So they love to share their values. They love to share, what they're about, and they're proud of it. And then when you have that kind of values and culture, it's easy. The right people are attracted to that. And right. The right clients are attracted to that. And it just becomes this kind of vicious spiral in the best sense of the word that's going upward, and it's about serving and caring. And like you said earlier, the shoes are not really the business. That might be what they're selling, but their impact is so much greater than that.
Absolutely. And to your point, number 9 is find and hire people who are already passionate about CX or customer experience. They are literally, like I said in the beginning, when they are training and finding and hiring people, they are weeding these people out in the beginning. And they are just really zoning in on the right fit with the same passion. And number 10, give great service to everyone, including customers, employees, and vendors. I find that some companies really don't match up all of their service protocols with all lines inside the business. So every business has to have vendors and employees and customers. And so if you're not in alignment and delivering that same high level of service to all kind of sectors of your business, that can become a disjointed thing. I've seen that in many businesses, and mine in particular. We've been very focused on making sure, from picking up the phone and responding to someone asking about a property to, writing the contract, to inspections, to appraisers. These are all people that are part of the process, and they all need to be treated with a high level of respect and experience and service. So, it's really, some companies don't get that. And how do you point that out? How do you help companies kind of get, that's the glue to me. The experience is the glue that keeps a company together. Have you seen any companies that have kind of figured out that they were falling apart and figured out a way to come back together? Or is there any company that stands out to you that does a really good job of connecting all their sectors?
Yeah, I think that there are examples of that, but I want to first kind of address that part about hiring the right people, because I think that makes everything work better. And when I say hiring the right people, I include vendors in that mix as well. Right. I got to interview one of the leaders of Chick-fil-A a long time ago, and one of the things that they said to me and it really stuck was, we only hire people that naturally smile. And I'm like, that's brilliant, because if a person is a natural smiler, then you don't have to train them to be nice to the person in front of them. That's how they are. Right. They naturally smile. So they're choosing the right person to go. They're not trying to fix the wrong person. Right. And it's just a way more efficient way of getting the person's almost there. When it comes to delivering the service they want, they're at the finish. I love that. You just have to kind of tweak it a little bit to get them to say what you want them to say, but they're already doing the hard part of the smiling and engaging and making people comfortable. So I think that that's critical when you're looking at your team, whether they be your team of vendors or the people that are working with you. So choose the right people that are already almost there, and then tweak them rather than just take anybody and try to fix them. I don't think fixing is a good long-term strategy. Now, when it comes to companies that really walk the walk in all aspects of the business, again, this is something sadly I think that is lacking. A lot of people can justify, well, I really am mean to my vendors and I squeeze them, but that's not, I'm trying to be generous in these other areas, but I'm going to squeeze the vendors like some big retailers do. And then they're trying to be like, hey, but everybody's welcome here. It's like, no, you got to walk the walk everywhere. And I think the key is to have that true north, believe what you believe, and then just kind of use that as the way to make decisions. If you believe customer service or customer experience is critical, then you have to deliver that everywhere. It has to be congruent, because otherwise you're telling your people that you really don't believe it, that you only believe it some of the times or only with certain kinds of people. We're super nice to our clients, but we mistreat our employees. Then you're really not living those values. You're saying those values, but you're not living them. The values are values because they should be throughout your entire life. It should be a 360 around your whole company. It can't just be certain departments you believe that, and that's how they behave.
Right. Yes. And that just goes to Tony's innate understanding that you can't build something special in the marketplace unless you also build something powerful in the workplace. That was his mindset, and it was beyond its time at the time. And I just think, like you said, you can't do it in just one area. You have to do it throughout. And whether it's at, in the workplace or at home or in your life, if you're not the person that lives it, then you're probably not the fit for Zappos, for example. I certainly could go on and on and on with this, but wanted to at least pay homage to a game changer, an icon, and a true customer experience champion, given that we are Customer Experience Radio. I felt like I could not let that go without paying homage to him. I really want to thank you so much, Lee, for joining me this morning. I appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for listening. I am proud to share this show with you, as these stories and more prioritize the customer experience as a legit business strategy, and reminding us that no matter the business you're in, shoes, pizza, or real estate, the customer experience should always be the heart of the business.